Hey, everybody. Today we're talking about narrative point of view. In the last session, we talked about minor characters and their perspectives. So the first thing I want you to do is think of your favorite book or movie, and I want you to think about the character that the story is mostly about. So if I think about the book that I like the most in the recent past, it would be The Hate You Give, and that book is mostly about Star. Okay, if I were to go back to the first page of The Hate You Give, then I could read the first sentence, probably, but definitely in the first paragraph, I would know that Star is the person telling the story. And who is telling the story matters because whoever's telling the story has a huge impact on how you, as the reader, experience that story. So, in order to figure out the narrative point of view, we need to know the types of narration. So I'm just going to go over these quickly. I do think that you've learned this before. First person uses I and me. It's the narrator telling the story. He or she often shares his or her thoughts and feelings. And then we have the second person point of view using the pronouns you and your. The narrator addresses the reader or sometimes seems to be talking to himself or herself. Next, we have third person point of view using the pronouns he, she, they, and also it. Someone outside is telling the story. The characters may not know everything the reader does. I want you to remember that the characters' names are also used with third person. It's not just these pronouns. And the last narrative point of view is a hybrid. The narration shifts. It may shift from first to second person, or it may have different first person narrators and parts. Okay, so just to give you some examples, both The Hate You Give and The Hunger Games have a first person point of view. The story that we've been reading for a while, the Ordinary Hoop Court story, has a second person point of view. Harry Potter and Fangirl have a third person point of view. And then Wonder and Lightning Thief both have a hybrid point of view. And this is becoming really popular lately. Okay, so in order to figure out what your story's point of view is, you need to ask yourself three important questions. And those are, who seems to be telling the story at the start? What pronouns help the reader figure out the point of view? And how full or partial is the narrator's point of view? I think the first two will be easy for you, but the third one might be a little bit tricky. So we'll spend a little bit of time on that. Okay. So I'm going to show you what I did for the Ordinary Hoop Court story. So the first thing that I need to do is go back to the first page and read the first paragraph, maybe the first two paragraphs. So I'm going to read this to you. It's finally summer. Go ahead, take a deep breath. You're free. All year long, your mom's has been on you like glue about algebra worksheets and science fair projects and the knee-high stack of books Mrs. Baker assigned for English class. And you did what you had to do. 2 A's and 4 B's. Okay, so my first question is, who seems to be telling the story at the start? And, this was a little tricky at first because the narrator seems to be talking to me as the reader. He says, go ahead, take a deep breath, you're free. But as I go into the second paragraph, he's using these super specific details that have to be about his life, like algebra worksheets, knee-high stack of books Mrs. Baker assigned for English class. So this is clearly about his life. All right. The second question that I need to answer is, what pronouns help the reader figure out the point of view? And we said that you and your are the pronouns for the second person point of view. So you can see that I've highlighted those throughout the first two paragraphs. Your, you, and you. Okay, the third question I said is the trickiest one. How full or partial is the narrator's point of view? So for this question, I'm going to show you what I did in the written note catcher that you guys have access to. Okay, here it is. So this is on slide 8. And the third question asks me how full or partial is the point of view. I said that it was partial. And, I know this because I only hear the story from the boy's point of view and no one else's. For example, in the beginning of the story, we think the dad is kind of a jerk because we're seeing him through the boy's eyes only. However, by the end of the story, we realize he's actually more caring and sensitive because the boy has realized this over time. Okay, so if this story were told from not only the boy's point of view, but the father's point of view and Dante's point of view and any other minor characters, we would get a fuller point of view. Or if we had a third person point of view where the narrator was talking about each character individually and giving us their thoughts and feelings, that would also be a fuller point of view. So I'm going to take you into the lesson slideshow just to go over what we've done and what you still need to do. My computer's almost dying, so. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is open your Student Digital Reader's Notebook to slide 8. You're going to read through the note catcher about how to transform an ordinary everyday hoop court into a place of higher learning with you at the podium. You'll be doing this work for your own short story in the next class. And then I want you to continue to read and annotate your short story. Annotate where you find evidence of the narrative point of view. So any pronouns or any inner thoughts from the narrator. Okay, if you are doing this lesson in person, then we will be sharing out our ideas for the story's narrative point of view. Do you think it's first, second, third person, or a hybrid? And I realize that there's a typo right here that I will fix after I finish this video. Okay, last thoughts. Guys, who is telling the story matters a lot. And it's not just for fictional stories like we're reading now. It's for, news and social media. You have to ask yourself, who is telling this story? Who is writing this article? Because that person or that company has a certain, bias or agenda that you should be aware of, right? And we see this all the time. So the stuff that we're learning here actually does apply to the real world. So I want you to take it seriously and good luck. I will see you in the next session. Ciao.